indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Chair, you're going to facilitate? Would you like me to? Or
You can.
facilitate. Okay, so just go with the goals. Goals workshop.
I'm sorry, I didn't
Yep.
print an agenda.
You didn't get an agenda.
I did
Here you
not.
go.
Is there another
That
one?
one out.
I think there was one.
Thank you.
You want to grab that one?
Thank you.
I
Excellent.
thought
We
there-
got
I thought you had one.
there are plenty kicking around there and some over there as
You
well.
want another
so
one? I'll go get it.
I'm sure.
You want another
So-
agenda?
No, okay, sorry, thanks.
I've broken this down into 5 areas. You can do what you want with them. As a board, I've broken it down to facilities, academics, personnel, community engagement, and fiscal, as well as other, if there's others that we haven't gone over that we want to include. After that, we'll go over indicators of progress. So if we choose a goal around facilities, what are the indicators of progress? How do we know we're moving forward? And what's our timeline to assess progress? I think it's important for us to come back to this on a regular basis, if not scheduled, so we can, whether it's in my report or it's in the principal's report or what, we come back to this on a regular basis and say, what are we making for progress, so that we know that we're making the goals that we put in place are actually going to get met. So,
Sorry, guys.
just starting.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, please.
So I delved through some of my old stuff and I came
Okay.
up with this. This is the 2019 through 2024,
Okay.
which was great. I remember getting it, but it had no benchmarks, no follow-up, no anything. And I'm not even saying it applies to now, but there was some pretty good stuff on here.
Okay.
But yes, so yes, benchmarks. Hi, Jen.
What we're saying, Jen, is that, we'll put our goals together. I want to have indicators of progress so that we can come back and measure what's our progress and do that on a regular scheduled basis and determine when we're going to do that. So we
Great.
know.
That's great.
Yeah. So who wants to start? Let's start with facilities.
Okay, anybody jump right in?
Okay,
Workshop.
facilities, we attempted to put in a, what do you call that, Marie?
We talked about it. What is it, a facilities assessment?
Assessment, which we did unfortunately cut to get a study
Or
of what, the
feasibility
feasibility
study.
test, right.
Feasibility
We
study.
feasibility test, which we wanted to put in as a warrant article, which we did pull out because we had to reduce the budget.
Okay.
So aside from that, how can we get a baseline of where we are?
Well, is one of our goals to have a feasibility study?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, we're coming into the budget season. Do we want to start that off again and start having that discussion about why?
The Park and Rec had a or I think in the process of having a feasibility done with UNH, and it was much more reasonable than some of the prices we were looking at. I don't know if they offer it for schools. It was directly related to a Park and Rec, but it was an avenue to look at.
But do we want to throw out like a whole bunch of ideas and then decide at the end what are our goals out of them? Instead of saying that this is going to be a goal.
No,
like,
I'm just,
talk
we're
about all of it,
going
just
out right
say-
now, and what
Oh,
I
yeah.
want to go in order of facilities, academics, so we can have some structure to this, but what else are we talking about?
But I think like once we've talked about a whole bunch of different things, that maybe we ought to pick 3 or 4,
Okay.
2 or 3.
What
that
you
we
can
can
also
accomplish.
see in there, with your agenda on the back side, just SMART goals, so that we know that they're reasonable goals, and that, that they're measurable, and their time, as I said, the last one being time-bound, so that we know that in a certain amount of time, is that a year, or is it a year and a half, or 2 years, or whatever it might be, because some of these goals are gonna take us more than a year to achieve,
Yeah.
I'm sure.
For feasibility, before the feasibility, I'd like to know from Joe, if we could do, what does the school right now need before we talk about expanding the school or anything? We need to meet the infrastructure now as part of that before the feasibility of what we need to add on. And, what are the things that he sees that should be coming up within a year or a couple of years that we need to take care of ahead of a feasibility? Because that has to be incorporated with a feasibility.
Good.
So a feasibility is not just infrastructure. When you do a feasibility study, it also talks about heating, heating and maintenance of the building. So it's not just expansion of the building. So in my previous district, we had a feasibility study done, and they actually listed categories. and by priority. And then another part of the feasibility study is, so if you pick a category and what your return on your, what the expected return on your investment is. So those are things that a feasibility study can do, that necessarily a facilities manager only looks at what's immediate and may not look at long-term, and that's why the study is important. So then what this other district did with the feasibility study is they picked the priorities and incorporated on an annual basis. They picked 2 or 3 of the priorities and incorporated it in the budget, so they had evidence of why they were doing those improvements. So feasibility encompasses more than building.
So is that something that Joe could do versus hiring someone with a?
What are his credentials to determine that, though? He's great. He's Superman, but he.
And I think also having an independent, sorry, Trey, but even having an independent party come in and do that takes away the bias, because I think the perception might be that he's biased. And
However, right now, we don't have the money in our budget for next year for that.
Yep.
So I'm thinking immediately, he knows what we have to deal with. And I think that's where we need to start and put in for feasibility in 2020. So we need to start something now, and I'd like to see what he has.
Okay, Tracy.
One of our problems is, we say we have a space problem, and other people say we fit 600, I think somebody said 615 people in this building. So maybe a list of what the use, just starting off, since money's an issue, starting off with how many rooms we have, what they're being used for, and how many are using them, just to start off, which is free, just to identify what we've used every single room for. I don't think, and what can be done, maybe a list from Joe of the ages of, I mean, I know this school was here in 1980, so we're looking at 39, 40 years for the furnace, for the boilers. Everything's old, everything's inefficient. You want to have better, we could do lighting. I mean, you want to reduce the electrical bill. What do we have for LEDs? What do we have for, maybe we could identify some things on our own, but maybe the first goal would be how many classrooms, how many buildings are used for SAU, what's used for preschool, and how many kids are in each classroom. Would that be possible?
Do we have it? Is there a way to estimate, like, what's coming? Is there any sort of population study that says, in the next 5 years we expect?
Don't they do it off of like homes for sale or land for sale type of thing?
I bet Marie has an answer to that.
There's an organization that does it, on behalf of schools, and you participate. It's a annual association fee that you do, and they do a enrollment projection. They do it out for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And that was something, again, in my previous life, when we were preparing the budget, that was kind of like part of the budget process. We had that report completed, so that would show where we look to be in the next 5, at least take the small obtainable, at least within the next 3 to 5 years, because you're preparing the budget based on enrollment that's projected. So there are organizations that do that.
Do they do it off of what land for sale or land is available?
We have to give them all information from the town. We have to give the population, and I mean, there's a whole bunch of questions that both the school has to provide and the town has to provide, and that's how they generate projections.
Now, even Tracy's saying that we had 600 plus students in here.
Oh, I didn't say it, Ralph did.
Oh, okay, somebody
She
said.
does not want to own that.
Well, you said it just now.
I did, yeah, you're absolutely, that's
You
true.
reiterated.
I repeated it, right.
So, did we take classrooms away to use for other things? I mean, if we had that.
I don't know the history. When I came here, it was
Or they over student populated?
450 is what we had here. You didn't have, at that point, we were not utilizing thoroughly the module the SAU is in now. Really, you had 4th grade out in the other modular. We had a couple usage off and on with the, what I call the empty modular. We weren't using it very well.
I know, I look up a lot with the Department of Ed, but I do know that Wakefield is right where they should be with 16 to 17 students per classroom, or 17 to 18. We're respectable. There's people that have less, there's people that have more, but I do believe it was said that when you have 600 people, there are a lot more per classroom, but right now, we're not, in those charts I read, we are where we should be.
And part of our facility goals are gonna be tied to academics. And one of the things we've talked about in the past is, if we end up going to the idea of bringing in some kind of foreign language, and where do you teach that? Is that something that's taught in the, in the classroom by somebody who floats? Is it done as an extracurricular? Is it done as part of our regular curriculum? And so when you're looking at, programs you wanna have in the school, we need a place to put them. So, again,
Well,
they
also,
kind of go hand in hand to some degree.
and we're sharing our gym with the cafeteria, that's not a good, you know. I mean,
It makes it challenging sometimes when you pulling the curtain and you're having, they do a good job of organizing what grade levels will be in there for the half the gymnasium, and usually it's, kindergarten, first grade. But you have to be strategic in that as well.
I think you're thinking more of like gym sweat versus food. all that
No,
stuff.
no, just
It
that.
doesn't usually
I mean-
splatter.
Right,
Well,
no, it's just that
Full
you
contact.
reduce the size of the gym. And I was trying to think of other schools that,
And the gym floor.
that the kids don't have
Yep.
the entire gym to play, whatever whether it's
Oh,
dodgeball or whatever
Yep.
it's supposed to be. I mean, you're not giving the full gym experience and then somebody said you're not scheduling it well, but with 470 kids, the gym is used every single period of the day. So when lunch comes,
Pretty much,
yeah.
Yeah, it is-
So it isn't a
There's not a lot of
scheduling issue.
downtime in there.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of downtime, but,
So are we talking about feasibility study here, or are we talking about, again, you want to do these other pieces first, getting a description of the rooms, the SAU preschool, usage in each room, the age of the mechanical system, looking at our electrical, is it LEED certified? Could we make it LEED certified? What's more economical? The idea of solar came up at the last board meeting. Is that some things we can put in here for?
Can't hurt to look at them,
Okay.
right.
right?
to
So,
re-
I mean, if we
Okay.
invested in solar and the town was behind it, and what did you guesstimate, 20 years it would pay for itself? And maybe at that point, or during that point, you create so much electricity you sell back to the town. It'd be
So if we were to take those things there, would you want to continue with the feasibility study as another goal?
I would definitely like to look into the cost of a UNH feasibility study, but I don't think we're gonna convince anybody else. And I think if we need to convince other town officials that we actually we need something official like a feasibility study. But I'd love to look into UNH's if they have one that they offer for schools.
Did you take that? I took that quiz, the questionnaire. Did you take that?
I did.
It wasn't really, wouldn't really apply to a school, I don't think, right? It was more about what you're doing, what you're.
But that came
Oh,
out
it
of
was
strictly
very
out of the recreation
It
program.
was very park and rec specific. I'm
Right.
wondering if they offer one for schools.
Right.
That couldn't just flip over.
That's a question I can
Right.
throw at DOE.
Yep. I lost my train of thought.
Sorry.
I'm gonna, since we're just throwing out ideas, right? At this point, we're just throwing out ideas. I think, the other one was, Jen mentioned this earlier, there's a lot of stuff up over the heads. Would it be possible this summer as a goal to get that off?
Well, can I add to that?
Yep.
In general, you look up, that's not professional. And I understand the, casual atmosphere, it doesn't stress kids out, blah, blah, all that kind of stuff. A teacher should look professional. You should be able to tell the difference between a teacher and a kid. It drives me nuts when I see teachers in flip-flops. It drives me nuts. I'm just joking.
I wasn't really, but I'm not headed
But on this-
any
on this-
personal issues.
But professional, though, I'm saying professional. You walk into, and at the last two school board meetings I've mentioned, I'd like to get a tour. I really would like to do that if we leave early enough tonight, because I really want to see, without prior warning, what the kids are walking into, because I've had parents complain to me that classrooms are just cluttered. And I have a hard time, if I have to sit down at my desk at work and there's stacks of paper, it's harder to think. And if you're sitting in a classroom full of 20 other kids last year when Jim gave us that, Tracy, remember when he gave us that, there were a couple of classrooms that I couldn't have done a crossword puzzle in because I couldn't have thought about it. And there are a couple of amazing ones. So I'm not saying on the, average that they weren't great, And there are a couple of really fantastic classrooms here, but there are a couple that I wouldn't want my kid going into. And I think that we need to say, Paul School is a professional school. You know, it's the people here are professionals, and they're going to welcome the kids into a well set up classroom.
Space is an issue. If we, but we need to help the teachers find the space.
So
We need
what I
to
bring
help
down
them.
is a space study, where else, because I look at this and I think, okay, where do we
But
put
it's not
that?
just space though, because we're going
I
to be
would
thinking
like-
people then. We're talking cleanliness and organization.
But you're talking about this stuff up here, and I'm looking
No,
at
that's not even as bad as it could be.
I'm looking at this just as an example, and I look at, where would we put it? If I go to a classroom, I know that we do have, the fire department comes in, that we have to have 18 inches of clearance between anything that's stacked on a shelf in the ceiling. So if we were to move that stuff, where would we put it? And that's not a question for right now, it's more of a space study about where else could we
Right.
store materials.
Or how else could we store it? Like, if the boxes were neat, if there wasn't crap along the top. And this
Yeah,
isn't,
I get it.
I'm
I
not
understand.
complaining about this per se.
Mhm.
There were some that we saw, and the parent that I
But to
spoke
work-
to said that the classroom was so cluttered that it was difficult for kids. That
So
should
you-
never
To
Yeah.
work
happen.
together is to offer alternatives to
I'll just have I think we need to have a standard. I think
So-
everybody, in
storage.
any job that you work at, there's a standard that you keep your workspace. You know, you have to meet certain
Okay.
minimums, and I think they should be set and they should be professional. It's not home.
I was going to do a little recap just for my own peace of mind. So we were thinking of finding out lower costs for feasibility for when we do one in the future.
Mhm.
Okay. Storage, maybe we could improve this classroom storage over the summer. And then make a list of what every room is used for and how many students are in there. And the last thing I wanted to add is, I believe the New Hampshire School Board said there's legislation for a grant for facilities.
There is.
That has a window of opening that I don't want to miss.
It hasn't opened yet,
Mhm.
and it's not clear that it will be, but.
But you know what I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
I do,
Something
exactly.
specific?
It's for building aid, so if you were to build, typically that's been based on the needs of the town, the financial needs of the town, so they may say that you may be eligible for 30% reimbursement, you may be eligible for 60% reimbursement, and it really all depends based on what the financial need of the town is.
I'd like to add one thing more to add to Tracy about how classrooms are being used. It'd be also nice to know the square footage that the state requires you to have per student for different types of students. That goes along with each of those classrooms.
Is there a different footage for different abilities?
Yes.
Different levels of, if you're in kindergarten, you need more space, actually, because they expect you're going to need more room to run around and more materials and things of that nature. So, a typical classroom now, I think it's 900 square feet. You'll find some classrooms in the building. You look at Donna Martin's class, that's not 900 square
Right.
feet. You look at, what's another one?
Heidi
down here?
Smith.
Heidi Smith's room, not 900 square
She
feet.
has a great room.
But just
Oh, she did.
size-wise, and so.
No.
And again, I forget the square footage for kindergarten, but we meet that requirement.
You know,
Make it bigger and careful.
we are getting more rooms renovated over the summer as well. So maybe some of the rooms that we were looking at needed the renovation, but I spoke with Joe the other day, just, about the Warren articles. And yes, I know we talked about the activity room, but in fact, the room renovations that we've seen over here are continuing. I know he does a room or two every summer, I think, so maybe that will create more storage. I think he does get bins and things in the new rooms.
So if we were to look at what you just recapped, Tracy, are those what we want to encapsulate in goals for facilities?
Yep.
We
Yeah, I
agree
think
on
that's
that?
good.
That would
Okay.
be
So
great.
what would be the indicators of progress?
Because somewhere, one of the things that we wanted to do over the summer was storage for classrooms. So at what point, maybe somewhere in July, Joe could give us a report back with how we worked on that, or is that moving forward? Did we find more storage for things that the teachers need place for
Okay, so like a report from Joe.
A report
about
from
the
Joe.
Possibilities for storage for.
in July.
In July. Got that? Okay.
How about, I mean, so I may be way off base here with the part that I added.
Mhm.
Let me know if I am, but I'm stuck on the standards.
Mm-hmm.
By a certain point, before the beginning of the school year, I think there should be written standards
Mm-hmm.
for how you keep your workspace, and the workspace would be the classroom. Not just safety, not just what's required by the fire department, but Paul School standards. I would like the words Paul School standards to have really good connotations for everyone, not punishing, but definitely that if it's up
This
to
is
Paul
how we
School
expect-
standards, it's a good thing.
Jim? You wanna-
I think if I could get behind that 100%, but it would need to be clearly laid out and specific if we're
Right,
holding
very.
people accountable to that standard.
Yep.
I think high standards are great.
And that's the start of the
So
school
you would
year.
like that?
Sure. But I also,
Look at the way he dresses.
I'm
I,
trying to be,
well, there's a reason I dress this way, can I tell you? So someone told me a story. They read this study in an article, and there were 50 people that were a part of this study. All 50 were given this white coat, and 25 were told this white coat was a painter's coat, and 25 were told it was a medical doctor's coat. And then all 50 people with similar IQs took a test, and the folks who were told it was a doctor's white coat scored much higher than the folks who were told it was a painter's coat. So quite literally, dressing professionally makes you act more professionally. So
And that's a great
I get-
example for the teachers.
I get it, but I do.
because-
Part of my concern is that at an old school I worked at, one day we did a purge, and it was such a it felt great. Like if you hadn't used something in 5 years, and all of a sudden we had a little bit more space to put things that we cared about and wanted to store professionally, appropriately. As it stands right now, if we wanted to do that, it would be we would have to make a pile of something somewhere, offer it to the community, and then offer it to.
Didn't we do that not long ago?
I don't remember the
Right.
exact
Pretty
I
much
know what you're
everything was
talking
order of
about.
operations,
Right.
but I
And
think a
modular?
purge would make a lot of
The
people
modular.
feel really good.
And
We have a lot
Modular
of stuff.
dumping ground.
Do you wanna
and
organize it?
dressing standards as well, though. And I know that you guys went really back. I'm going to say backwards, not meaning that falling behind, but really lightened up on the dress code. I'm hoping you revisit that this year. But I think the teachers need to be professional. This is their job. It's not their job. It's their career. And there's nothing more important than educating kids. You need to dress for success. I don't like walking into a school and seeing sloppy people in charge of the kids.
Well,
And there's
but
very
the sta-
few. Very few.
Okay.
The standard that we're holding people accountable to needs to be super duper clear, and I'm not sure
That's
I
what
could
I'm
go
saying.
to a binder or a handbook right now and say, this is the entire bullet that I need to review with you and hold you accountable
So
for.
do we need to set a policy for that? So
okay,
we need
well,
to
you know
clarify
what,
a
if
policy?
you could email us which one it is, we're starting
I was
Monday.
gonna say, I think there was a.
It can be right on the top of our list.
Give us some ideas.
Is it
Of what
in
you'd
the,
like
is
in
it a
it.
policy or is it in the handbook?
I'm pretty sure it's a policy under staff conduct.
Okay.
And notes with what you'd like to see.
Speak up.
Right, I don't wanna make it up.
Okay.
Right.
So again, indicators, so we've got storage report, we've got written standards for cleanliness, the Paul School standards by September. Feasibility study.
Wait, can we back up a little bit?
Mm-hmm.
Back to the building. Just in the feasibility, whatever, in the back into, like, talking about it being neat or
Mhm.
building rooms or whatever. The bathrooms need attention. The locks on
Oh,
the
yes.
doors need to shut.
Yeah.
Things need to be, it's disgusting in some places, even when it's clean. You go in, and I haven't been in a bathroom in 6 months, so if you've done something major, great. But they're not something. I think somebody said something about cleaning the bathrooms or making sure they looked good because they're having something in the gym, and I'm like, wait, it should be that way for all our kids.
Let's come back to that, because I think that is, again, a goal for probably this coming budget season, that we should look at how do we upgrade these bathrooms? Take out all these old doors, we take out these old toilets,
Warrant article.
rip the floor up,
But
redo the floor,
before
because
all
you
of
get that
that-
urine smell out of the floor from the kindergartners. I'm telling you, these bathrooms are old, and that's part of it.
That's the problem. It's a
Pet
old
products they
building.
make for that.
It has bothered me for quite a while. Your tour was excellent, it did obviously affect Jen and I, but there is a bathroom that doesn't have a door, I believe, down.
The door doesn't shut right or
It
something.
didn't shut right, yeah.
It didn't shut right.
So-
And
Down that
when
way
there
by
were,
the
I
gym.
mentioned it a few times to different people, not you guys, that the slidey thing to lock the door, it's not there. It's
I
not, how's a kid supposed to?
I think we look at a whole bathroom
But-
and
But
I know.
but we're talking smaller, not big bucks. I'm just saying that the maintenance people should go through, and if there is a door that doesn't lock,
Bring
it
it.
should go right on the list. Someone should go right to the hardware store and fix the slide.
and no issue with that.
Without,
I-
without a big dollar thing, just every door should lock.
Review of the bathrooms over the summer,
And
for now,
the
and then
detail,
bigger
not the big
projects
stuff,
later.
The detail.
But, right.
I
For,
mean, do we still have sinks that don't work?
I'm hearing a lot of things that I agree with in terms of need, and I wonder. You kind of presented something like this during budget season, but again, like a priority list of. The nicer our school is, I think, the easier it is to have a lot of pride in where you spend all your time throughout the day. So when kids go in and they see bummy bathrooms, it's
Easier to
It sends a
equitable.
message.
it's a little easier to be off task in the bathroom.
Mhm. But something like a door not closing, it's
You mean-
$5.
You
we
mean,
shouldn't
say,
have to-
if somebody has writing on the wall and it's not taken off right away, somebody else will write on the wall?
kind of thing.
It just smells like pee. They're gonna aim less.
Okay, so, but then also a
makes
report
sense. It's gonna be
regarding the room description, the usage of each room, age of mechanicals,
What's our status, what can we, our status as far as we can do without a feasibility study? We can do the square footage, we can let people know this is what's in a room, this is what's allowed in a room.
Right.
So we
Save
can,
some money.
we can start there.
I think the
Um,
easier way to do this is to take what we're talking about here, to have me come back and rework the goals, and then bring it to you back in a board meeting, just to kind of review what the goals are and the indicators and.
I think that's even helpful to us, thinking about whether or not, how many teachers we need, or just for all of us to understand what exactly we have for space. I think that's just a very user piece of knowledge,
Okay.
since it is such an issue.
All right. Anything left on facilities?
I was gonna say, you guys?
So, I just want to have like every decision we make should have some sort of end goal vision. So if we do fast forward a few years, say when the bathrooms are done, we should have a vision in mind that we want to brand our school as the Panthers. So we want our end product to be white and black, so that we're not just doing the bathroom to do the bathroom, but we have some sort of vision that we want our school to look like X when we've done whatever revisions we've done. I think that's important.
Have a theme,
Have a theme.
And make every new thing go towards that, so that it's not
Right.
mishmash.
so it's
Good
not
idea.
random.
Continuity.
Yep, excellent.
And you're
I
doing
think
that
that's a good
already. You've
idea.
already planned that with Joe regarding this summer and the painting.
Oh, good. That was something that we talked about, but I thought it was just too overwhelming sometimes to
No, they
get.
just talked about it today. so.
Wonderful. I was hopeful, but I didn't want to push.
But that goes for facilities, but really every goal that we're coming up with, not just a goal to have a goal, but there should be some premise as to why we created that goal and some vision that we're trying to get to as well.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
Visionary.
You know, my last piece, Jerry, is, as far as benchmarks go, it's nice for us maybe, basically we want benchmarks.
Mhm.
You know Joe's schedule or their schedule and can put them in.
Mhm.
I don't want to dictate
Okay.
to that level.
But I think
But they haven't been forthcoming, so
Mhm.
we need benchmarks.
That will come, we'll make that the point to bring that when I bring it back to the board meeting.
Mhm.
I will bring it back with the timeline, and you guys can tweak that as you see fit.
Can I suggest that I don't like just coming to the library. So I think that every second or third board meeting, we should do a walkabout. Because we're not just here to see the library, as wonderful as it is, but I really think that it's not micromanaging or anything. It's just getting a good feel, feeling comfortable in the school, and knowing what's going on. I really do think we should put that in our schedule, on our agenda.
On a
that
cool
we-
day, not in the hot summer. No, I'm kidding.
Well, it's cool in here.
No, I know.
Yeah. But I really do.
sure.
I think we should, just to get to know what it looks like. When the kids go in and out, why are we limited to the library all the time? We don't know what the rest of the school looks like. And I think we should.
Okay.
If we do that, and I'm behind that, but the standards that we're holding teachers accountable for, the Paul School standard, needs to be clearly articulated. If it's not, I'm concerned that it will be, we'll go into a room.
Well, that's one of our goals, is our Paul School standard.
But if we go into a room before these are clearly established.
Right.
We understand that.
Yeah, but I think some of the big things, and I'm just going to say cases of water from last fall, shouldn't be surrounding a teacher's desk. Okay, I don't think that's a hard one to get rid of. But all in all, we went mostly down that way.
Oh, there's some
There
excellent
was some
classrooms.
amazing. You see
There
Ellen's
were
room,
some
the
really,
teacher you just mentioned,
truly
John Blake Smith, her room, and they were fantastic.
There
So
are
it
some-
was not an overwhelmingly negative
Let's
experience.
go back to the cases of water. What's that all
I was
about?
trying to slide that by. A teacher had like cases, what, a billion cases of
Well,
water
probably
around
for
their
the
desk.
kids, but probably a
It
nice
was
thing
a-
for the kids.
Probably, but it just was distracting. It was a very cluttered classroom. Not everybody's the same. I'm the youngest of 7 kids, and I went to an open concept high school. I think I can, and elementary school. I think I can concentrate anywhere, but clutter distracts everybody, I think.
But we do have to provide places to put things.
That's
too,
right.
So.
Well,
That's the
it doesn't
issue.
even mean getting it out. It doesn't have to be neat as a pin. It just has to be neat. You know?
Been to my house. I'm
You're nuts.
I'm good for
You
neat.
notice you haven't been to mine?
Okay,
I'm not that neat.
moving on, academics.
Okay.
Really, that's only on the
Believe it or
second
not,
one?
I have something here for the
Do
academics.
you have something for academics?
Believe it
Tracy?
or not, yes. All right, I'll try to do this as fast as possible. Guys know I did this webinar through the New Hampshire School Board Association, and why do we exist? And we exist for student outcome goals. That's why I thought this is one of our most important meetings. Primary focus should be increased student outcome, not budget, not management, not all the other things. How much of our agenda is management on a management budget, and how much of it is on student outcome? To create this, we have to have the input, meaning the staff, the curriculum, the tech, the output, which would be measurable benchmarks, and then the outcome is the final analysis. And we must create a goal, SMART goal, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. And purpose of a goal is to give it a target. For instance, you're going to have your population, first graders, second graders, or all school, or and they're reading on the 50% target level. You want everybody on the 100% target level by 2020, something like that. Just a specific, what do we specifically want when we have to, what I'm basically going to boil down to is, what is the school board's job? We have to figure out a baseline, we have to figure out a goal, we have to figure out a deadline, and it can be, our goals don't have to just be about academics, they can be emotional, behavioral, social. The board's job is to hold the superintendent accountable, it's his job to hold everybody else accountable. We're not on the board to only balance the budget or run the school, which we shouldn't do. We are on the board for policy, vision, accountability, and increased student outcome. It's really hard to say what do we want when we don't even really know. Our backgrounds are not education, so to just say we want an improved student outcome isn't very specific. I think our first goal is to find a baseline. What a very hard look at our curriculum by an independent person, whether it's a consultant or, again, this is not my area of knowledge, so, but I would.
Do we not have anybody on staff who is at least semi-qualified to make some of these judgments?
We do have
'Cause
money.
we have all these professional people. It would be nice to.
There is money in the budget for.
No, I mean somebody already here.
Yeah, I think I lean more toward requesting somebody independent, a third party, so nobody's feelings get hurt.
Yeah.
I would have to look at people's qualifications. You know, is there anybody who's really a curriculum person by background in education? And I'm not sure that we have. Jen, you're looking at me.
I will be.
Yeah, you will be, but I mean, you're somebody who has
Works
that
for me. It's
some
enough. It's close enough for me.
But, you know, Tracy's right, we do have a curriculum
Budget.
you know, in personnel or in staff, so it's certainly something we could look at. I think it's 25,000, then, Marie, is it? So,
Can I say that I find it a very attractive thought that our vice principal is heading in that direction and would be an integral part of that, because who knows the school better, right? So an outsider comes in, and the outsider has their benefits, absolutely, Tracy, but she has insight into a lot of things. So I think we should use her abilities at the same time.
One of the reasons, of course, that goes without saying, one of the reasons why I think an independent is you don't have the pressure of the other people on you. You can work with them, but personalities are no longer involved. Somebody isn't saying they want this or they want this, or this is somebody who doesn't know anybody, knows what's out there in the state of New Hampshire, and would absolutely work with you, no question about it.
This right here, you know, this goal workshop is not a time to break down the details of how we're going to get it done. It really is more, what do we want to get done?
I'm just trying to think money.
No, I get what you're saying. I just want to make sure we have enough time to get through this here.
Oh, I'm free till tomorrow morning.
Well, I agree
Super.
with Tracy that eventually an outside person.
Just kidding.
What I'd like to see as a goal, and according to academics, would be to look at the curriculum we currently have at each of the grade levels and see from the teachers what they say is working and what isn't working as a baseline before going on. That will give us a good assessment of how well kids are doing.
So poll the teachers, you're saying?
Well, you know, like first grade gets together
Yeah.
and they look at, you know, math, science, and reading, or math and reading and language arts, and see what they feel is working with the curriculum they're working with. And each grade level would, because they do get together on a weekly basis, don't they? And that could be something, one of their goals is that they could look at the materials they have, and is it meeting what the goals are for the school?
So one of the goals would be a curriculum assessment, and we can determine how we figure that out.
I'm in on this.
Sure. And I think you are just kind of
So great place to start, but I'm a fan of the fox not guarding the hen house or being ruled by the inmates or whatever.
That's my
But
point.
we need to start somewhere.
We do, but we want to make sure that it doesn't. It's a great idea. You're absolutely right. They have insight that other people don't have, but we also want to make sure it doesn't slow it down, going too slow. We can do some of these things all at the same time. We can get their input. We can be working with the vice principal to do other parts, and we can be incorporating an outside, and it's move it right along, and everybody gets their say. Very important part there. I'm pretty sure that as an administrator, Jen can stand above the crowd with who wants what, you know. So, and that's a good practice because we want our administration to do that. I don't know personally, but and then the outside person would be a trifecta.
Well, the upside to having, you know, an outside person, you know, working with us, I look at when we are addressing curriculum, assessing curriculum, that there aren't any sacred cows, and that they can all be killed and eaten. And
I think I need a translation on that.
you know, we're just there's no program out there in our community that is so ingrained that we can't say, yeah, I know you've been doing this forever. I know you every fall you look at dinosaurs or apples or whatever. But you know what?
Because
we can kill that sacred cow.
we need to meet the test scores. I think we need to incorporate them as well.
And the teachers could tell us. They
yep.
could tell us what they need and what they.
Well,
Watch your pants.
it's a huge topic. This is what we ran on. This is what I ran on. This is where I don't care. I was in the town hall today, and again, I was hammered with when are you guys gonna do something about our scores?
Curriculum
So-
assessment, I think, is absolutely a high priority goal.
It is.
Without a doubt.
And obviously,
So-
you'll be our, well, however you guys set it up, that's not
We will.
my goal, to tell you.
Gotcha.
So Jen would, I'm super confident she would be able to do that without a doubt. But Sandy, I'm not sure that that's a goal. It seems like a tactic that we would do to reach some other overarching goal.
Curriculum assessment is the goal.
Yeah,
And how we get that done
so you're right.
is, a matter of what we'll figure out, who's gonna do that, and then we'll come back with that timeline.
I definitely think input from teachers is gonna be a huge thing.
Oh, yeah.
I agree wholeheartedly,
Yeah.
but that's not a goal. That's a tactic that we do to
It's
meet
been-
the
It
goal.
it is,
No,
but
it's not
it's a
benchmark.
step in that direction.
Our goal,
It's
I guess
information.
what is the goal?
The
is what
goal,
I'm asking, to
as I
improve student
see
achievement.
this,
I think the goal is to
Increase
find a
student
baseline, to
outcomes.
find out what are our strengths in our curriculum and what are our weaknesses.
I think our overarching goal
What
to
is wrong,
answer
what,
that, Jim,
what
is
is, what is wrong and why are we not scoring well?
The goal is increased test scores. of
increase
course.
student
That-
outcomes.
That's the goal.
Right, I'm just saying, how do you
There are
start?
going to be a number of bullet items that we use to facilitate, to get to that goal. I mean, and it may be looking at literacy, it may be looking at math, it may be addressing the standards, it may be looking at science, but these are all going to be under that our overarching goal of increasing student outcomes.
I have a request.
Sure.
Thank you. I don't know if it's a goal, it's not a goal, it's a request. We have a lot of challenges in special ed, and Kepler really, steps up to the plate. I would like to see more regular ed statistics and more high,
Challenges.
no,
Just-
gifted and talented statistics. I would like it to include the broad range of all of the kids.
There is no
We-
gifted and talented separation, so there's no
There
way
are
to get a
kids
statistic.
that, Fontes and Pinnell, there are kids that are reading, that might be second graders, that are reading on the third grade and maybe possibly even touching on fourth. I want to know about those also.
I'm with her.
I
Absolutely.
want to know
Happy to
about
do it.
that. Yeah.
But doesn't it work? I mean, when you do anything, when you are jogging, a guy ahead of you, the guy passes you. Don't you pick up your step? You do that a keel. That by example. You
Yes,
want
you're
kids
right.
to succeed by example. You want them to dress better because their teachers do. You want them to read better because their buddy does. You want test scores to be a great thing to say, hey, I got a 95 in this. Well,
What's that called? The Renzulli effect? A rising tide raises all ships?
No, that was, didn't Kennedy say that?
They call the Renzulli effect. Again,
I don't usually quote Democrats, but I'm
Look
pretty
at our
sure.
budget. You have a default budget that covers, without a
He
doubt,
said it.
special ed. You have a default budget that absolutely includes the tuition for high schoolers. There is no mandatory spending for regular ed. It just is, it's disappearing
so we'll
quietly.
take a look at that
But
request.
those two things are gonna get covered in your default budget, no matter what. Our high schoolers and our special ed. And the stuff in the middle doesn't, I've noticed, that's just
That's exactly it. You're right.
So,
So one thing, a couple things we have to find our baseline, curriculum assessment.
Jerry, I have a question.
Yes.
Can I speak?
Yeah, please.
All right, so I don't know if it's part of the outcome of what you're looking, one of the outcomes of what the primary goal is, but statistics show that attendance plays a factor in student outcomes.
Mhm.
So would that be a goal to improve attendance, or is that part of the overarching?
I think it would all fall underneath that, but improving
Okay.
student attendance.
I wonder if it's not the reciprocal being true, that if you have a dynamic teacher and a great curriculum, that your kids want to go to school and they learn more. Because I know I fight with the 12-year-old to come to school when she's got certain classes she doesn't want to go to, or it's going to be a
I
drab
just
day.
didn't know if
But no, but I'm just saying the opposite too is if we offer dynamic stuff and a good challenge and a peppy, happy environment, I think you'll get more kids in the door too without having to drag them out of bed.
But sometimes, and I'm not saying it's happening here, is there a criteria of if a student misses X amount of days in school, there's consequences for that. I'm not saying suspension, I'm saying there's consequences for that.
For unexcused?
Yes.
That could be a policy, you know.
Like a point system type of
No,
thing?
it'll be a policy, you know, there are certain, if you're not attending school regularly, that you may end up in a Saturday school, you may end up doing some, you may have to do extra classes. There's something, again, you know, you can't.
The only way I'd get behind that is if that included the kids who are suspended. Because it flabbergasts me that some kids can be suspended all the time and still continue on to the rest of the class.
But if students
Code law.
aren't here and engaged in the curriculum that is being developed or incorporated in the classroom, that affects the overall outcome because it's measured not by individual student, it's measured at the whole outcome of that specific grade or that specific school. So I don't know, I'm throwing that out as a.
I'd hate to have a punitive effect for. I'd rather go from the positive side of, and I see exactly what you're saying, and I get it. I'm not against it, but I'd rather raise our standards, the classroom standards, to make kids want to be here. You know, at this age, high school is different. You probably really have to make them go.
And I think it's still, without trying to get into the nitty-gritty of how we would do that, looking at student attendance as being part of our improved overall student outcomes.
Is it low? Do you have trouble still?
There are times, yeah. I mean, I haven't looked at it here in the last few months, but
We've been busy.
I mean, I have.
It was the year I get the
Jim and Jen have a better handle on that because they're the ones who hear about it firsthand from the teachers. But it's been an ever-present issue
You
in
think
my
it's
7
about?
years.
There are individual students that have challenges, and we do have. There is some. It is included in the student handbook. They're absent so many days, they get a letter. They're absent so many days, they get a second letter. Then they're absent so many days, they get a second letter and a conference with the teacher and administrator. So there are things in the place, but what we don't have that we've had discussions about moving forward, we'd like to have are incentives and recognition for the students who are here. So at Community Day, we certainly could celebrate kids that have had perfect attendance for the month. It's something that we're currently not doing, but like little things like that can make big impacts.
And some kids, that's the award they're going to get that month.
By,
Yeah, and you can
by
be
grade you're talking about?
just
Anybody.
period. You have perfect attendance, you're recognized in front of the whole school.
Well, that's done
And you could
anyways,
be-
isn't it, at the end of the year?
End of the year, but not ongoing and throughout.
Periodically,
That's
too,
great
to
of
kind
you.
of-
Sometimes it's tough to wait for that carrot for 9 months, but if
Sure.
you're getting it in a game,
Sure.
and you can be a straight A student or you can be a mediocre student, and you could get in trouble a lot or not get in trouble ever, but you can be recognized for that. So
Okay.
I think I'm having a hard time now with some of the things that we're talking about. Jen and I have also had conversations about, and we also have brought some of this to our leadership team. So I'm having some challenges right now determining what is going to come from here and then what will come from our leadership team, and kind of
What's your leadership team? What's that refer to?
we have a grade level rep from each grade level, and we meet every other week to discuss this.
Well, so you should have a lot of input here to give us ideas that at the end of the meeting when we pick our stuff, that a lot of your ideas are there that you would like to see make the school board goals list.
Well,
That's what I mean. I'm having a hard time. I don't
Split 'em
know
up.
what's here and
Right.
what's there.
Okay.
Well, but you could put those together.
Right.
Right. Pick
You
and
know.
choose. You can.
To simplify it on some level, the way I understand it is, we are voted in to give you what the people who voted us in want to see happen.
And to make you do the things the people who voted us in, because there's a push and a pull side to that.
So you absolutely use your leadership and come back and say, this is how we're going to meet
Well,
the
it
board's
sounds like
goals.
they're doing that, you know, it sounds like
Some
they're.
ideas tonight would be good too.
Well, we do, but
But adding our input from tonight
Okay.
is gonna help you a lot too, to
I
see,
agree.
you know.
Well,
It
it's
doesn't
gonna-
mean that you're
list
not going to have
might
your
help
own,
you.
you're going to have your own goals as well, but we're bringing what we are.
We're gonna give
Don't you
you,
have some
we're
things you'd
gonna
like to see
compile
on our
this,
list?
and we're gonna give this to you, and you're gonna hold us accountable to make sure these are met. And we're gonna go over what those pieces are.
Can I recap what I have?
For sure.
So, better test scores.
Right.
And then you are going to decide on the benchmarks and the timeline for as our goal, okay? To get these better test scores.
Well, he's gonna decide?
Well, bring us yeah, I mean, I think actually, yes, that's how it works, is we don't micromanage it to that level.
No, but we wanna know, and, every so often, I don't want him to
No,
decide
it has
details
to
next
have,
year.
no, it has
No,
to,
no, we gotta-
it has to have benchmarks. He's just going to
These
tell
are-
us
all these
when
goals
they'll
here,
be.
I envision this right now, having some kind of update on a monthly basis.
Okay, that's great.
Again, so whether it's coming when Jim's doing his report or when I'm doing my report. So, because I think it's important if we have goals and we have timelines that we have to meet, that we need to meet to get better, that you need to hear about what we're doing, and again, it holds our feet to the fire as well. So we need to get this
So,
done.
so Jim, when
Excellent.
you guys meet with the reps, he's not involved in this, right?
No.
So I think it actually should come from you guys, as far as.
But we do then report to Jerry at our department head.
Oh, yeah, I mean, keep him
But
informed.
he's not at the
I guess
table.
keep him informed,
Right.
but, bring it back,
Leave me in the
back to
dark,
us,
Jim,
Go ahead.
And-
Jen.
So, where we're at right now, and where we want to make sure that we are going to this end goal vision. We want to make sure the school board's going to this end goal vision, and we want the superintendent to support both visions, and knowing that we're all heading in the same direction. So where we're at right now is establishing our core values, so that we have a set of beliefs, and we have input from the community, we have input from parents, we have input from teachers, we are hoping to get input from the school board, so that if we want to hold teachers to a professional standard in terms of classroom environment, that we have a core belief that we all can refer to and we all know well, and it's written down and it's easy to point to, that says we believe both Paul School staff and Paul School students should be held to a high Paul School professional standard, and that needs to be articulated and in our core value that we've all agreed is a core value, and that will the end result in whatever goals we achieve.
And
So
that's driving decisions and everything is gonna come back to that, so that everything is, linked and going to the same purpose. We're all on the same page.
and this is, I'm sorry, Sandy, I'm flowing right now.
Go, go!
So if we're talking curriculum, no, it's easy to say, no, we don't need that curriculum, because we have a core belief that we rotate curriculums every 5 years, and until we've given that a full 5-year round of time, energy, attention, and effort, we're not ready to research something else. But after 5 years, it's there, we're doing it, it's ingrained in what we do.
Another component on the curriculum, when I was at the New Hampshire delegate meeting, they had the Shaker Regional District, and they do a curriculum review quarterly that they bring to the board to show progress or things that aren't working. And maybe that could be a component for us, that once things are in place, that we would get a quarterly review of curriculum and how it's going.
Okay.
So the core belief could be that we believe that we should all be working together and we should communicate well with each other, and that includes community, parents, school board, staff, students. Could be.
The last piece which ties this all together, the last piece of the puzzle that we listed as our goal is to evaluate the curriculum. And what I was going to say is two things. In the benchmarks, when you come to us, it doesn't mean just because we have a strategy. If the strategy isn't working, we recognize it and we change it. Just because we want to do something doesn't mean it's going to work, and we have to be transparent and honest to say, okay, it isn't working.
It may evolve.
Of course, it may evolve.
Yep.
And just find a different strategy,
Yep.
tweak it here or there, but be honest in the acknowledgement, in the benchmark. The benchmarks have a purpose. Is it working or isn't it working? And as Sandy said, when I was looking at the composition of other SAUs, they varied. One of them had a superintendent and a curriculum educator. That was their whole job. It wasn't that, oh, we set the curriculum and we don't have to monitor it. There are schools that monitor it quarterly, and they monitor it much more often than we do. So getting a baseline of where we are is due. is overdue, so.
Good.
Jen, chime in if I'm off target here, but so I just want to make sure we're all clear on, we say standard curriculum. We use those a lot, and sometimes I feel like we use them interchangeably, and they're not. So there's the standard, the ultimate that we're trying to reach, and there's the curriculum, what we teach to hit that standard, and then there are programs that we pull from and bring to our curriculum to then hit that standard.
I haven't touched, you know what, I haven't touched that. I have boards, I have huge things to do that, but I didn't want to bring it at the goals meeting.
Okay.
So, but yes, they are different,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So we have, again, the overarching goal, increase student outcomes, but under that, we're going to find a baseline, we're going to look at a curriculum assessment, improve student attendance, and ultimately better test scores. Personnel.
Actually, I have something I'd like to say.
Okay.
Don't have a whole bunch here, but I want to say that first time I attended 2 years ago, almost to the day, June 1, with Sandy, we were in the audience for the SAU, and this is the best that the SAU has run since I have been here for 2 years. How about you, Bob?
I agree with that.
It is absolutely spectacular to watch what everybody here has done, and Jen, we worked just as a board, we worked through all kinds of challenges and unexpected things, and all we really came here to do was to improve student outcome. But it's just, it's been an enormous endeavor, but it's a pleasure to see it work.
I think they do a great job in the office, and we were just talking about that in our staff meeting today, that they're doing a super job, and we're continuously assessing what can we do better, and that's the discussion we're having at the end of our meeting today. Was really feel like things are going well, they feel like things are going well, but what can we do better? We're not perfect, and we'll never expect we'll be perfect, but what can we do to continuously make progress and make sure that our ship is running pretty tight?
Took a long time to get to this point where now our goals have, certain areas are set, they're running well, they're efficient, and now we can focus on what we really came here to do.
Thank you, Tracy. I will pass that on to the SAU staff because that is very much appreciated.
You mean these board meetings aren't required watching for the staff?
I don't watch.
Usually
I'm
for
kidding.
bedtime, just before bed, I want to. No, that doesn't put me to sleep,
watched
believe me.
once
So
when I
thank
was
you.
Bring
young.
food in, no, it's good.
It's been a lot.
Hot dogs.
It's been quite the road.
So personnel,
I'm not exactly sure what you mean by this.
anything we need, I think Jen brought up about standards, about dress standards. I think that falls under personnel.
Yep.
I think it's very important. I mean, you were there for when I was not on the school board, and I came to him as the principal because I was unhappy that a member of the staff made me have to explain to an 8-year-old what a G-string was.
Oh.
It was horrifying. Maybe she was 7. I don't know. Really wish that day hadn't come quite so soon. It was true. She came home and said, "Mom, why would this happen?" It should never have happened because I don't care what you have underneath, but you should hide it on the outside.
So appropriate attire.
Appropriate attire, but we need to be specific, I think, because I don't think teachers should be wearing flip-flops to school. I don't think they should be wearing the tight leggings without something covering to a certain point, because there's something else I won't touch on that I had to explain that year.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that it's great if a teacher is physically fit and looks wonderful, but there's a limit to what a kid needs to see every day.
Those are tough. Though I agree, but
With
they're tough
professional
issues.
attire.
Professional
I think
attire.
Jim gets that.
We figure you guys can.
But if it raises
Figure
his
it out.
standard, won't it raise everybody's standard? I mean,
Absolutely.
don't you, I feel more professional when I dress more professionally.
I bet there's explanations online that describe that exact situation that can be put in for the dress code. The
Are kids
leggings.
still not allowed to wear flip-flops with no backs? They can wear anything? No?
No, they can't wear
Oh, they
it.
can't?
It's more about safety. for them
But
getting
anything
out
a
and
kid
going.
can't wear on their feet, a teacher shouldn't be allowed to wear either.
I just want to comment on that. When I worked here, our standards were we were told were the kids' standards.
It's not that way anymore. and it wasn't. I remember asking a teacher,
It
or
is, isn't it?
I remember asking a teacher how she got away with the
No, I
flip
don't
flops
think
that my
so.
kid
No.
wanted to wear but couldn't.
Oh.
You know, when Kate was like in 5th grade, I was like, how come you can
I
wear them
think
but
that's-
Kate can't?
I think that
I'm-
has been always the underlying.
Well, there needs to be, it needs to be held. So if this is personnel, is it how the administration works with personnel too? Because one of the community complaints, not anybody specific, but to me that I've heard at least a dozen times, is that they don't feel like there's a ruling body in the school, that the teachers kind of do whatever they want. And I think it would be really good to have certain limits set, you know, that they have to ascribe to rules, and that there are people in the school who make sure that happens. It's probably, I mean, I can tell you about an office, if I don't have a good manager, I can't do my job as well. So I think that it's like when they say kids like rules, I think everybody does, and everybody likes a chain of command. And I think that we need to be we need to be more firm with that than maybe has been the case.
Good.
Sorry, I'm going to do pretty much a redirect. I do have a question, and I know this is a supply and demand question, but certified teachers.
Mhm.
Is this personnel? Is it possible to, I know we have a couple of subs. Is it possible to bring that to a certified level? I know they're all teachers, but there's a
When you're having a
certification.
long-term sub, is that what you're asking?
Mhm.
I mean, the requirement by ed rules are that they have to be certified if possible. Now, I can tell you, this year, we've had 3 long-term subs that were needed, and not one person who was certified applied when it was thrown out there. You know, so you make every effort to do that. They don't have to be certified in that specific area, so like, say, like when Mr. Boynton was out, it didn't have to be a certified PE teacher, it had to be a certified teacher, and we still didn't have anybody apply.
Okay.
So you
but
do
as a
we-
goal.
Yeah,
As a
and-
goal that we would
well,
like
it's a
to have.
requirement as well. It's an ed rule requirement, so we attempt to meet that, but
Right.
we're not always successful in meeting that requirement.
Okay, but I guess as a goal to have more certified teachers on staff.
All of
If
our teachers
possible.
who are regularly employed are certified or have what you call I don't think we have anybody at this point, but what they call an alternative certification, or they're eligible for an alt certification, so they can go through that process, and we're allowed to hire them at that point. We don't have anybody, I believe, at this point that's on an alt. Do we, Jim?
Kim was, but she's now
But no,
certified.
but that was
Yeah.
even a year ago.
Yeah.
So I don't think we have anybody that's.
Okay, just as a
Yeah.
goal.
Oh,
to-
it always
to-
is, yeah.
To keep looking, keep putting the ad out to try and.
Is the sub pool still really slim? Is it?
Well, that changes this year too, I believe.
I
the-
hope, well,
Yeah, it
the
does.
pay changes. We'll see if
Right.
the sub pool changes. You know, it really is. It's it's tough to get people to come up. You get some people in town that will do it, and sometimes they work out, sometimes they don't.
Right now, it's a little better because colleges are starting to wrap up.
Yeah,
So we'll get another 2, 3, or 4, which will be helpful.
that's it. But again, that's periodically that happens around December break, and it happens around spring. Kids will come back for a week, but really is by and large, if it's thin, it's got to be thin.
Okay, otherwise I
I'll
think,
let Jim go first, because I don't know if it's, go ahead.
I wanted to just address Jen because that's important. So with the dress code, it needs to be spelled out clearly and articulated well, so that we can hold people accountable to that standard. And that's something that a lot of the things that we're talking about now have been
Sorry.
But
been
don't we
discussed.
have a dress code for the staff?
We do. It's
Too loose, you say?
It's not specific.
It's not super specific. We would like it to be a little more specific. And we will present that
But
to you in the student and staff handbook.
So that's something that you can do.
It's on the
You guys can
radar.
get together and do.
Yeah, and plan to. Yeah.
On my list.
And I think that's
So-
where Jen's coming
So
from.
that could be
What?
one of our
Of
goals,
them
for
doing
them to
Right.
come back
Yes,
to us.
yes. because
Right.
It is. I've already got that written down.
right,
It's
with
gonna come back to
I'm hoping for September 1, but Is that possible?
We are
Done
as well,
Oh, good.
before September 1.
Yeah.
Okay.
It'll be in the student handbook that you guys will.
You know, the way I see it, teachers give homework assignments. They're not waiting until September.
Well,
Then they'll get it done.
Other
Oh.
personnel matters.
Oh, yeah,
I was joking about
we don't plan on
giving
waiting
it
until
done.
September,
Hurry.
but
Jerry,
it's
please
on the list.
Just kidding.
let me know if I'm way off base.
Sure.
I think it's important, based on what I've observed, that we really need to have job descriptions. And I don't know if it falls under the personnel category in order to hold people accountable for what their roles and responsibilities are.
For teachers? I mean,
Yeah,
the
everybody.
whole thing.
I think overall,
Yes.
we
everyone
need
should
to
have one.
look at all job descriptions. Some of them may not have to be modified, but I think, so that the board is aware.
Do they exist now? Somewhat?
Well, I think I brought something
Yeah.
forward in the
I-
last month.
I have all 3 copies. I've been, it was such a hot topic that,
But it's a goal, and that's why I don't know if it falls under this, and
Yeah.
I just wanted to put it back out there.
You know,
Yes.
while it's in process currently, because you've already brought them to the board and need to be revisited, let's put it in the goals anyway.
But under what category?
Under
Personnel
personnel.
or under?
Personnel.
On personnel.
I'd like to see that a goal by, before the start of school, that we have that settled.
Yes.
We've had, this has been ongoing since I've been on the board, and I think it's time to
Right, to get them
Just-
done.
Oh, yeah,
just get it done.
there were lots of job descriptions, and as Marie pointed out, they were not consistent. So they were, and Marie did a great job of structuring them so that they'll all be consistent. You know, the same language, same requirements, as well as I think we need to look at when we're hiring people that we're making consistent. What they
Well,
receive for
and-
benefits and everything, and the whole thing. We need to again.
Benefits
there's-
is in the contract though, right?
but not for the unaffiliated. So again, everybody, it's in trying to make it consistent so that people have, if they have days off, that, like in the case in point, we all, as administrators, had President's Day off. Well, the kids don't. Nobody wants it, nobody wants us taking off. Jim and Jen are taking off on, but that's part of our benefits package. But it didn't align with the reality of the building. So Marie again restructured that, and when she's doing the
So I
contracts.
brought forward some of the, I think I brought forward 3 or 4, the formatting, because before we continue in that path, if that's not the direction the board wants to go, we don't want to continue that if that's not the correct path. And if we need to modify that path, we need to be aware of it. But, and the job description is a living document because things evolve. And one of the examples is that the assistant principal's role and responsibility may not include curriculum assessment because other districts have individuals specifically for curriculum assessment. And if we add that to that job description, then that becomes their role and responsibility. Anne made a comment about, she's the special education director, and she's evolved to the grant oversighter, which, again, other districts have that. So if that's part of that role and responsibility, when an individual leaves on their own, for their own purpose, we have something else to follow, and we revisit it to see if we can. The job descriptions are always a living document, but it's something to hold people accountable.
Can you change a job description when the same person is holding the job?
Do we change it?
Can we change that? Can we add something to the job description that wasn't
Absolutely,
there?
but we need
Business-
direction
business
from.
things change.
We need direction from the board, because
Sure.
the intent is that the board reviews them, approves them, and if there is a modification, it comes back to the board so they understand what changes have occurred.
Yeah, you can make a change to the job description. The person who's had the change made can decide if they want to stick around
Okay.
for it, and that's
right.
reality, right?
Yep, that's right. Good.
Are we talking about for teachers and paras as well, or?
Yes.
And I
But they
asked-
haven't gotten to us that.
I ask because this is something that the leadership team set as a goal a couple of years ago and started to create the school leadership team job descriptions. So for example, if you are a middle school math teacher, these are your expectations. This is what you should be doing. If you're a middle school language arts teacher, and I feel like that's definitely, I don't want to speak for you, but that's definitely something that we could get back to, coming up with what we feel
Well,
would
I think we
be
can
and then
collaborate,
present that.
collaborate with the SAU.
It has to be a joint venture.
Yeah.
I would just like to say that I think, Marie, you have brought to us the definition of the positions, the four, I think you brought 4 contracts to us, or job descriptions, and I think they hit accurately the positions that are in the office that you brought to us. I think there are some, you know, how much you can lift or this or that, a few other changes, but I actually think you hit the nail on the head with everybody's job that now exists. And it's a matter of maybe tweaking them.
It's fine, I brought them forward, the board tabled
Yes,
it.
we need to.
It was for a lot
that's
of
fine.
reasons.
But if it's set as a goal, you have to have it attainable, and you have to have a timeline, and that's why I brought it forward. That's
I know,
all.
and we didn't give you any direction. We just tabled it, so.
So right now,
Gifted and talented
before September is where we're
overseer
at.
to somebody's job description.
So before September, job descriptions.
Yep.
Well, again, that may be, not all of them, because if we're gonna be incorporating teachers, we have an overall teacher job description
Right, it's a
currently.
general one.
And we have one for guidance, and we have one for nurse. But we don't have it specifically for math or language arts. That's not what we currently have, but if that's the direction we're going, then I don't know if we're gonna
But-
be having
but-
all job
But
descriptions
you could
by
start with what
September.
you have as a general.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Right.
That's correct.
Like, how about those 4 we have by
But we need to
September
collaborate on that.
September 1?
We need to collaborate if any modifications need
Yep.
to be done, okay? And
So-
then
We will
can-
pull this all together and give you a timeline for all the
Yep.
jobs. Because again, we're talking all job descriptions, not just a few, but we'll pull together a timeline that demonstrates what we get done by September 1, what's done by November 1,
Right.
what's, you know, and that we make progress on this throughout the year.
Good, Jen?
Thank you.
I have 2. If it's under personnel, I don't know if this fits, but I want to get it in for I forget. I don't know where we landed because there was so much going on and so many changes made. We need to get some, if it's personnel, does that count a position in somewhere? We need to get the nurse some help. I don't know if that's coming or going, because I think it got pushed off into this, under the special ed category when we were doing it.
What is it?
The
So you're
nurse.
you're like an LPN of sorts
She
in
needs,
there.
she is overwhelmed. She has a lot on her plate every day, and I'd hate to see her leave, and you'd never fill the job as it is, because with all the paperwork, all the HIPAA stuff, right, and that she has to fill out, and then the kids who are sick, and then trying to, like, if you have a day off or you have whatever, I thoroughly believe she needs an assistant.
I
So-
thought that got put in the.
It got moved to the special ed
So-
though.
So, can I speak to that? So originally, it was going to be, it's a paraprofessional position, and the paraprofessional had an has an LNA.
A specific person wanted
Yes.
that job, yep.
And we had put it in, split it in the nurse section. We had put 50% in the 1200 line, which is special education, and 50% in the nurses line as a support staff. And based on the budgeting process, it was suggested to move that position in the entire position under the 1200 line, so it's not split. So right now, it's indicated on the 1200. That's all discussions that could be done during
Budget process.
the budget process. But that's a great point, Jen.
Okay, so does that mean we can move it?
Up to the board, you know, that was, it was originally 50-50,
Up to the
and then
board,
it was
and there was a
recommended.
student with needs. If there was but there was
I-
talk of that student not having those needs or something.
Right. What we are talking about, Jen, is an overall position for the general population of the school.
Yes.
Not the one particular person, so.
Or there was some talk about that person maybe not needing that, the LPN. I don't know where that stands or if we can even talk about that, but so I don't know if we need to have some in the 1200 line or if we can move that all over. But I really and thoroughly believe the nurse needs some help. And we
And
need,
that's-
I think
that's
we need to make it a
point.
priority.
Evaluating the staff, yeah.
We'll make that a goal.
Like a second. Can I do my second one real quick?
Oh, sorry.
Tell me, can I talk about something I tried to negotiate after negotiations are over? Is that legal? I know like they're private when we're doing them, but if I don't use a name, can I say something that I tried to negotiate with teachers but lost?
Can we bring this up at another time? You
Well-
can talk to me about it privately and we can.
How about if I just do a blanket thing then?
Okay.
But how's it related to goals?
Right.
It is.
Okay.
I think that under personnel, I think when we were talking about people trying to do better when there's good leadership or whatever in front of them, I think that we should have Teacher of the Month or Teacher of the Year. You know what I'm talking about, don't you? And I think there should be, I think the teachers who perform well should be held up for the other teachers to see as a role model.
I like teacher of the year.
Or not year, because we wouldn't get enough of them in, maybe of the quarter, the
Whatever.
week, the month.
Don't you do that already?
But I think you can get something, what do you want to add to this?
A staff member.
I
Something you
I
want to
just-
add to this?
No, I just want to put that out there as I think that it should be a rewarded thing, and I think that all teachers would benefit from seeing which teachers are held in the highest esteem.
Yeah, I like the quarter thing.
And then would Jim, bring up what you're gonna bring up, because
Well, we have no fiscal incentive, but we do have, they're recognized in front of the school community, and we have a small trophy and a Teacher of the Month parking spot.
We've never
Oh,
heard
nice.
of that.
I think I
I
did
think
see
that it should
Teacher
be
of the Month.
announced
Is that the pocket spot I always take?
Next week.
school board member.
I think it should be announced like public at school board meetings or something, because
Okay.
not, I think it's a
Certainly
big
could do
deal.
that.
Yeah.
I think that it should,
Yeah, we've been doing it for
Why they're-
years.
why
I've been parking there for
they're-
years.
and maybe we need to get a bigger reward so it means something to them.
Sure. So we do it monthly, and the current staff member of the month is Jess Cormier.
Nice. He's
And
an
typically,
excellent math
Nice
teacher.
shout out.
typically we ask staff members to nominate other staff members.
Mm-hmm.
This month, kind of unorthodox, but staff members and students nominated this teacher.
She's great.
And it starts over every month. So if you nominated a teacher in October, but they didn't win in October, you need to nominate them again in November. So far we've had, help me, we've had Joe,
Yeah.
we've had Jess Cormier,
Mhm.
Jackie J. Quebec,
She's awesome.
Tammy Canny. I don't want to forget somebody, but I know that we are.
So it's a staff member that's not just specifically a teacher, it's
Correct.
anybody in the
It's a
building.
staff member. Yep.
That's good.
Oh,
Yeah, it is.
Cindy Kingsbury.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Great idea.
I know it is in there. I mean, I know they send it in their Wakefield Weekly. It is put in
I
the
haven't seen
Wakefield
that.
Weekly that's what happened. So, but it is great that we bring it forth and celebrate it with the board as well.
It's in
so
the
it's
Wakefield
well
Weekly.
done.
It's not in the Wakefield Weekly, I haven't
Yeah.
seen it. and I
Oh,
read
you
that.
haven't? I thought I
Have to
saw
check
it.
it in,
I
make
thought
sure
I
it's
saw
all
it.
done.
I've never
We're
brought
gonna
to the board,
change.
and we've been doing it for a long time.
5 or 6 months now. Yeah.
No, I mean, before that.
Oh.
The way you did it in the community meeting, yeah, but we've done it for a number of years.
All right,
We
Tracy?
hear all the negative things, and this is
go
really
on.
great people.
We gotta
here.
move.
Okay, I'm going on to something else. Great idea. Well, it's a hot topic. So, evaluations. One of the things that has come to my attention is that the board has to, and this ties in, evaluate the superintendent. I just read this in our recent contract. In the fall, and their decisions have to be made December 1. Same thing with the teachers. Evaluations, decisions have to be made December 1. Instead of coming to the board, I was thinking, and I'm just thinking outside the box, just starting the topic, would it be possible to bring the evaluations to the board in the fall, the ones you did in the spring, in the fall, so we know before December 1, as opposed to after December 1, when there's effectively nothing there's nothing that can be done. Not that we would do anything, but all of them are in the fall, because that's when it's written in for, in the contract for what the board has as a job. Actually, you even have to remind us. So, but is that possible? The evaluation's already done, but to wait, like they're done in May or June or something, but to wait till the following March, it's not aligned. So that's my only point.
Yeah, actually, we've been talking with that, Jim and I have been talking about
Okay.
how we're gonna structure that.
That's under
So
personnel.
again, it was, it came out of a question that was brought to me about why we didn't follow policy GCO, and I said I didn't know GCO well.
There's thousands
Was-
of policies. It's
No, even as the principal, I didn't know. I said, I haven't done evaluation until June usually, and never was aware that was an issue. And so now that we are, I went to Jim and Jen and said, now that I know this is an issue, that we need to follow a certain policy, we will follow that policy.
What are you thinking, Sandy?
With evaluations, it's done on the previous year, so I don't know how it's gonna help us in September.
Well, you have to let the teachers know by December 1st whether or not you're going to renew their contract.
You need to let them know if they're not going to be renewed.
They're not going to be
Yeah.
renewed by December 1, so fine doing anything after that date.
But we,
But everybody still
agree with
has,
Tracy.
still has work that they can be, we can evaluate them on between December and March.
You get my point.
Yeah.
I'm not
We're
trying
gonna,
to
we're gonna,
micromanage.
no, we're gonna come up with a.
I think instead of, I'm going the opposite direction. Instead of asking them,
Oh.
I think you should be telling them that this is how it's going to be, because I won't be here for the next contract renewal thing.
Well, you'll be
but-
here in the fall.
No, the contracts that happen, when we vote.
The two.
I've done the two. But I would have been I was so angry. I was so angry at all of you. Because I really think that was not done right. And I think it's very important that people know they're being evaluated and that they are evaluated thoroughly, and it affects their continuing here or not.
Gotcha.
Like Jerry mentioned, now that we know what needs to happen, we're gonna make sure that happens. But I know for us, we wanna make sure we get the information for what you need to see and how you want that. So that's something that we need to have that conversation. Like, what do you expect to see, so that we can make sure we have.
So we're already
I think
discussing
isn't
with
it
that
pretty
structure.
detailed in the teacher contracts? Aren't evaluations pretty specific?
It actually,
let's see here.
that was one of the things that was negotiated to be discussed, but obviously it didn't happen, so. But regardless, the timing it needs to be
Let's
addressed.
go on.
Can we move on to community engagement?
All right.
Okay.
I get something like that.
Community engagement.
I hate this one.
Okay.
I think, I think parents need to feel like they're being heard by us, even though in general, we're kept afar from the issues that are going on and only used in certain situations. I think that in general, the population doesn't understand, as I didn't, exactly what a school board does. And I think that we need to offer parents a couple times a year just the ability to sit in front of us and tell us what they're thinking about it, about the school, about everything. Much like when we went and sat with the teachers. The teachers that came in told us that we got great feedback on that. I stopped using Facebook because I just couldn't take it anymore. But there are a lot of people that hopefully, opposed to just sitting behind a keyboard, might come and give us, whether it's 2 at a time, if we don't do the
Well,
whole award thing.
I think in the past we've had that with, you have coffee with the,
No, I'm talking with us.
Second board.
okay.
Because
I'm just saying they're giving the input to,
he had coffee with the principal, but it was me, Laura Russo, and Mary.
what do you call
Yeah,
it?
Jen always came.
Hey, I'm invested in my children.
She likes coffee.
No,
We're retired.
Oh, she came to the pizza, she came to the coffee.
I came to the thing
The-
about internet
cyberbullying,
safety, and
yeah.
because I'm invested in my
Yeah.
child, and the best way to get the most out of your school is to go to these things. So,
Absolutely.
What I like to see as a goal, again, it goes back to the delegate meeting I went to in January, is the Shaker Regional Valley School District they did a climate and culture survey to the town, and it was it was not only the parents of the students, it was the community as well, it was the staff and the children participated in it to get a sense of what we're doing right. And I think they used UNH for that study. And I thought that was, I think with everything that's been going on this past year and in several years, it would be a good sense and a good barometer for us to know. It will help with facilities and planning in the future to get a sense of what the community wants and what they feel.
I'm off
Jim, you
during.
guys have to leave?
I have to leave at 6:30 for my son has a big important Boy Scouts meeting tonight at 7 that I have to be at. Let's tag team this. So Sandy, we agree with you wholeheartedly.
You just did it.
The school that just won an Eddie for best middle school in New Hampshire did something similar, and what they found out from their response survey was that 33% of parents were happy with the way the school was going, and that was their kind of
Benchmark.
not even their
Wake-up
benchmark, but
call?
their wake up call. Like, okay, we could keep going down the same track and be great for 33%, or we can redirect and get better. And they sent out the same survey. Now they're at 99%.
wow.
So, but we did do an end of the year survey, which included questions like, what do you think went well, what didn't go well?
Can I tell you, I didn't answer that because my 12-year-old didn't bring it home, no matter how much I berated her. And everybody said they were going to bring them to the school board. We never got one. So
Okay.
me, who wants to be
So-
involved, didn't get the answer.
So there was that, though, and we did an end of the year survey. We have a core value survey right now that's being spread out now.
Parents?
Of
To parents,
community
to
members,
community,
parents.
to
Where is it
staff.
at Maine? Where is it? Town hall.
It's at the town hall
You have
and
it
at the
probably.
library. You guys have copies in front of you, but we actually just did a climate and culture survey that went out to all parents, all students, all staff members, bus drivers, cafeteria, and the community as well. So we have that,
And how was the community to know about that?
it was so put out on Wakefield Weekly, sent out on our school's Facebook page, and again, like put out in different
those
locations.
are-
So it's out there.
In the town, it was, yep. So we have, I have a stack of this high of the surveys that we are.
I think the surveys they did was on the internet, where it was a website
Like the
that would
monkey
give it,
thing?
and they
Not
did have
everybody
copies
has
if people. I think they had copies if people wanted a hand, a hard copy, but it could be done via the internet.
Yep, and we have did that in the past too. So, but we have all the results from the climate and culture survey. We just have to get them tabulated now and analyzed and everything.
So you guys do that yourself? You have it done?
Survey
be
Monkey.
determined.
Look at Survey Monkey for $175 going forward.
You got that many, I guess.
How
But
much?
Sandy,
$175.
175.
it sounds like what I'm hearing you say is that we're trying to get out to everyone, but you're still hearing that it's not getting out to everyone.
I didn't know you did it.
So
and I
right,
live
so
right in the town.
let us
And
know
I'm on the
about
school board.
of the core values one, because it's important to us that we do have as much feedback as possible
Actually,
from as many people as
any of the
possible.
school board members know about that?
No.
Actually, no, but it isn't just a school problem. We are no longer in the newspaper. I don't know if anybody noticed, but there's very little about Wakefield, period. I don't care if it's selectmen or there is very little news about Wakefield in the, I forget the name of the paper, but the one that always had stuff about it.
Carroll County.
Carroll
Carroll County used,
Oh, Grand State.
and it isn't just the school. There are no articles. My other thing was real quick is I liked that the website company that Mox Dog that came and visited us and made a pitch. I didn't know if we were ever going to revisit that.
I know. I just went through all my stuff. I have a big stack of
I do too.
things that we.
Were you reading my
need to do.
pen?
No.
Are you reading my mind? We just talked about this morning.
Oh, but really? Oh, no. Well, but maybe because of your.
There's your community engagement. There's
There's
home.
community engagement. They have a great
Website.
great one for the food pantry. And who else did they do? I forget. They did somebody else.
Talking about the money for that, right? This year. So.
Right. I think we.
Good luck. Are you the Cub Scout leader?
Not yet.
Not yet? Yeah, of course you will.
But okay, so climate, culture survey, parent meeting, parents coming before the board.
Good luck.
I would like to. What I would like to see us do
Thanks,
as a
guys.
school,
Thank you.
engage the community on a quarterly basis. That we do something like here for Memorial Day. We have done an outreach to. If you saw on Facebook, which I love, but there'll be a presentation regarding Memorial Day from the students, and we've also invited in veterans to come and have lunch at our expense. We'll pay for them to
Nice.
come and have lunch with the kids and.
I like
Yeah,
that a lot.
and so, but something like that on a quarterly basis where I think that, the budget not passing, I think my first thing I went to was, what kind of marketing have we done as a school to show the people who don't participate in our school community on a regular basis, what's the great stuff that's happening? What's the NHD stuff? What's the science stuff? What's the kids that are increasing their reading? What are all these good things that happen within the school that the larger community has no clue about? As you said, you hear all the negative stuff, but you don't.
Even the sports teams. If you could get
In the Carroll
lonelier
County.
people in the town, the older people or whatever, to come to some of the sports things, it's fun and exciting.
Yeah.
And 7th and 8th grade, they're pretty darn good.
So again, I would like to see us as a school engage the community, do some outreach. Jim and I have been talking about, maybe going out and doing some kind of civic-minded activities with the students out in the community. Again, letting the people in the community see our students at work, what they're doing, the good stuff they do, the activities, whether it's athletics or going out and cleaning up a cemetery, something that we are part of the community.
He mentioned elderly housing in Rochester
Something.
by name, but there's one in Wakefield too, right? So it would be good to
In the community, it's nice to be in the
There's that
community.
one, only one I know of, but I didn't even know it was there for years.
But just something of that nature.
Yeah.
Tracy, I have a question for you.
Excellent.
In where I worked before, through Foster's Daily Democrat, and I know it's not Carroll County,
she's gonna
there was a
tape
reporter
it.
that
She
came.
has a lot.
We had the session recorded, but we also had a reporter there. Is there somebody in Carroll County that we could connect with?
I think Foster's will cover us too, even though they're in Stratford County.
There is.
Um,
Larissa, do you know the name?
I think our
Okay.
Do I know the name?
Larissa might.
On behalf of another community organization, I asked the managing editor of all of the Salmon Press papers whether there would be a replacement Wakefield reporter. I haven't heard back yet. I haven't had a conversation, but I know they're lacking staff and stringers that only get paid $50 per story
I'll do it.
to go out.
We should.
So
So what we did was
We want more than just.
so each newspaper had a district assignment of a person and connected with the superintendent and the principal. And a lot of times they got their stories from them. So they were able to promote all the positive reinforcement of what was happening. And I didn't know if Carroll County newspaper, I don't live here, so I don't know.
Well,
It's quite small.
obviously, the minutes Priscilla used to submit, but that isn't even really where I'm headed. I mean, there are no stories in Wakefield
I understand
in
that,
the
but
paper.
the reporter was able to do that.
So perhaps we could compile stories that we would like to see in the paper about our athletics, and then maybe hand it to Salmon Press.
I could make an inquiry on
Okay.
behalf of the school board. I'd be happy to do that.
Right.
And if there's a cost attached to that.
We will write something up on this.
Well, I would imagine I don't know.
It's an
Well, they
advertisement.
pay $50 for a
Sometimes
story.
it is.
Maybe they would pay us the $50 for the story.
We
if
could use it
handed them.
to
But at
teacher
this
of the
point,
month.
it would just be win-win if we could get it in the
So
paper.
let
Right,
us,
I think
let
it's
us,
a matter of not having an assigned skilled correspondent to assign. So
Right. I
let
think
us
we-
take this as a goal and let's figure
Yeah.
out
Okay.
how we make it happen.
Okay.
We have a Wakefield Weekly that's sent out from the school. Is that posted anywhere else in town other than
Just
here?
online.
Because it would be
It's on
nice if we
Facebook.
could just have something, posted at the library, or, down on the bulletin board in town hall.
Or even highlights from that going into a paper or something like that.
Hmm.
Doesn't have to be the whole thing, but yeah.
Hmm.
Oh, yeah, perfect. We already have it
Or
put
just
together.
have,
Right.
if somebody
Yeah.
would
Say
be willing
highlights
to,
of
Yep. We already have
can-
something to hand over.
Right.
All right.
Hey, Jerry,
Okay.
what else you have?
Fiscal.
Good job, Marie.
You guys.
Good job, Marie, right. Do we have, is there a fiscal goal? And I don't know there
I
has to
have
be.
one.
Do you? Awesome.
I'd like to work collaboratively, I have one, but collaborate with the board to set a timeline on the budget process.
Yeah.
Actually set a timeline and goals to meet during the budget process. When to get things
Absolutely.
done by.
I don't think any one of us want to have
Yeah,
happen.
my goal is I would like to see it done, the process start earlier on things that we know are set things.
Absolutely.
Every,
The biggest challenge that we have, and I've said this for years, it's really challenging. We give the teachers basically their worksheet and their budget sticks probably right around the 1st of October, first week in October. And then we're asking them, before they've gotten a chance to use materials they've had, that they just got from the new budget, we're asking them to tell us what they need for next year. And if they need something different, they have no idea because
Yeah, but
they haven't
if
had-
it's a new teacher, that might be a problem. But your experienced teachers should have that figured
For
out
the
by now.
pens and pencils and paper and stuff like that, yeah. But I'm talking about if we're looking at the way you're implementing the curriculum. So if they want something different, it is challenging. And having done it this way in SB 2 towns for the last 11 years, I see the same challenge every year.
Yeah.
Okay, but other than that, fixed items, absolutely.
No, but I think the other
Sort of
stuff
relevant.
is Sandy's talking about.
Yeah.
The other things that we know, the big
Yeah.
things, by all means,
Yep.
it's just
Yeah.
the teachers are the challenge. 'Cause they're just getting in
We
there.
basically know what our facility budgets have been. you know, what we're spending for
Sure.
utilities and stuff. Those things, I think, could be done. I might be wrong.
We'll set goal, that's a goal.
But I
we'll set
think
it
that's
as
what
a
you
goal.
need.
Perfect.
Okay.
Good idea.
Good.
I think we should come up with, we should have a goal of how to handle or manage school lunch debt, bad debt. Because I just
It's
don't
been a
think
hot
it's,
topic for years.
it is, but you know what, other people do it and make the news because it crashes and burns. But it's just not fair to have people's lunch, just some people's lunch come out of the school budget. And I think that there needs to be, you know, and there needs to be, I think we need to look at it. We could go on for an hour about what we could possibly do.
certainly could,
But we need to
Yeah.
look at it in depth. I think we need to try to make that a,
Can you, I don't want to interrupt you, but can
Yeah.
we have a printout like we did previously? You know, let Jen and everybody else take a look at that.
I
see
saw,
what-
he gave us one, what, last time?
I gave it to
Oh,
you.
you get, oh.
Yeah, we-
The way we used
Take
to do it,
ownership.
though.
There you go.
What's
I-
that?
But-
I can-
The way we used to do it.
There's
with
two
the-
things though. There's some facts, but while we're decision making, I think there's some hard information that we need to know. Number one, I don't believe we have enough data for 17 or the years past
Well, this year,
or this year this year behind us.
the current year.
But I think we need
To-
to laws.
To,
And rules.
right, so say, we may have to determine that at some point it is a loss, draw a line, and going forward,
Didn't we
one
do that?
school said,
Did we do that?
Didn't we already do that when it got messed up? Didn't we start over?
we didn't, so we have,
Well,
that is what we have.
it starts
one of the
over
things
every
we
year
have to do.
anyways, right?
That's over, right.
It starts over July 1st.
Yeah.
So,
So it'll be for July 1st of 19.
okay, so
But-
So you
our,
must be able to tell, looking back, if there's a family or a kid or whatever who
Oh, you
hasn't
can.
paid
You can.
the whole time, I'm sure there's a line that we can say, okay,
so why can't we send them a
Right.
bill
But we
like
can't
that?
deny
Let's, let's talk, that's
No,
part of the
okay,
goal,
nine.
that's part
Oh,
of the.
that's part of the goal.
That's part
All
of the
right,
goal.
you're right. Okay.
I would just say that we,
Make,
whether
Handle it.
we had some difficulties in the last year regarding lunch debt, it's been an ongoing issue, as Bob said, all the years I've been
okay,
here.
so we created.
That's not
and we
new.
looked at numbers that could equal laptops for second grade.
Yep.
Right, so,
Yep,
Anything
no.
else under
Absolutely.
fiscal?
well, what else? Do we need to be discussing early on contracts that need to be renegotiated? Because it has to happen again, right? Do we have to go at that this
We
year?
act- we've
That's
act-
fiscal.
We've actually started the process with insurance
Okay,
negotiations,
okay.
and the rest of it will happen shortly.
But I think we ought to get ahead on that too, just, you know, what we're gonna expect, what we're gonna look for.
Do you remember what Gavin said? Did he want to wait till August or September? But yes. I don't know, if we can start it sooner,
What
you
else
want
do
us
we
to
have?
find out if we can find it sooner, how
Oh,
soon
just,
we'll
you know,
start?
just us talking about it.
We'll talk about that later.
What else falls under fiscal?
What do you think, Jerry? Is consistency in, what is that, personnel? Benefit package?
It could be in either one.
Yeah, I think we need to look at, reevaluate what?
Benefits? I think what you're talking about is there are some people that their benefits are 82 and a half, some people are 83s, and really just starting working to bring kind of like days off, holidays.
Consistency.
So that there wasn't one group that says, oh, well, I get 83%, oh, I get 82.5%. How come you get this and I get that? Because that's the way it is.
Don't they know they're not supposed to talk about their money and benefits at work?
So,
But they can.
but they can and they do. So just assessing,
Maybe.
looking at consistency.
We could tie the research into insurance, maybe with also tying it into everybody's contracts reflecting the same.
It
We
needs
have
to be that
We
way.
have to be, again, I don't wanna keep talking offline because the time, we have time constraints.
We do?
But whatever, yeah, what we're negotiating with,
Cut off.
we're negotiating with parents and teachers, even though we have all these presentations, they have to go back and vote to change. So, that's great that we're having these and we're getting educated. The other part is the unaffiliated doesn't have a say. Unaffiliated doesn't have somebody, that they don't have to go vote for it. So, those are all things that we have to consider, when we're looking at those things.
Okay, Jerry.
I have a question real quick. We keep talking about time constraints. Is there some hour, besides 8 o'clock that we have time constraints? Because I get frustrated by that. I know you guys have been at it all day, but I have like, 4 hours or 3 hours every 2 weeks
Oh, I
to
don't know. I
handle
just thought
this.
that Jerry had a
And it just,
timeline.
but it frustrates me that we're always looking at the clock. When if we're going to do this well, we need to do it well and not always look at the clock.
I'm sorry, my
Like,
fault.
not just you. It's always. It happens all the time.
But we can always vote, they've always had that. And what happens is, when you approach the hour that you have, someone makes a motion
Yep.
to extend.
I just didn't want to. I feel pressured that we don't cover stuff that we should cover because we're looking at
But
the
if we
clock.
extend, and we all agree, we can extend.
It's-
And that's
it's-
always
it's-
happened.
It's more that people just keep going off subject. That's the problem. But that can drag us
It's
right
the
out.
problem, but we don't get to talk because
That
we
would be
can't
me.
talk outside of the meeting. There's no other time to talk about any of this stuff.
That is true. We cannot talk outside of a meeting.
And we don't.
But I think that it's a balance. It's a balance to be respectful
Well,
of time, but definitely have to
Important.
thoroughly
And,
get our
and,
job
and
done.
that time too. I
Oh,
mean,
I joke, but
that's a
we're
clear
here
thing.
for a reason. I mean, I joke about being here all night. I didn't see my kids last night before they went to bed. So I am anxious to get home too. But I just feel like where we can't, it's a funky rule where you can't talk to somebody outside of here, but we're always rushing to get through it too. So I
No,
have
listen,
to
there's-
get fully educated.
There's topics I'd love to talk
Okay,
about tonight,
hurry up,
but we
Jerry,
just
get to the
can't.
next
It's not- That was actually a pretty good age.
Other fiscal.
It's not left.
No,
Okay, I'm gonna get in trouble for that in the next meeting, at the next public session.
Other fiscal? How about anything, other goals that we haven't covered in the facilities, academics,
I think
personnel?
it was really good.
We, under other, you and I have discussed at other meetings that we, and
There
it's
it
been
is,
going
other
on for
meetings.
years, or year and a half, that we wanted each position to write out their deadlines so that we were aware
Oh,
of the
yeah.
big deadlines that were coming so that things weren't missed. Because if I work on a hit by the bus theory, so I don't want to say if Marie gets hit by a bus because I don't want to make you feel bad, but the next person should be able
We
to
just
step
know
in
now.
and know what has to happen when, unlike what happened at the beginning of this SAU. So I think that we need each employee, even from you to right through the whole staff, to know when they have to do stuff. So when you have to check they have to check the fire extinguishers, you know what I mean? That the person in charge of that has that on his or her. This is my list of things I have to do and when I have to do them, and I think that should be its own little binder.
Like deadlines. type
Yeah.
thing?
So the school lunch thing that we missed, we had one person that missed all that, and we lost all that money. Well, there should have been just one person who knew that existed,
Right,
and
right.
we shouldn't have missed it, and we shouldn't have been fuzzy about when it had to happen next time.
Right.
And when the FICA needs to be paid, or what else is there? I mean, there's a million things. I don't know them.
You're right. You're right.
But I think that we need to have it written
Contracts that
down
we
for
have
every job.
with vendors.
What's that?
Right.
You did that the same morning. All these
Well,
discussions, we talked the same.
We've gotten spoiled. I'll be perfectly honest. In the beginning, it seemed like the SAU was late for everything. Everything. It didn't matter. It seemed like, and you have us on track. So we have gotten, it's been a nice span of time where we're
But-
functioning
So
efficiently.
we
Let me
need
just
not
tell you
to
what
get
our process is
easy on
right
that.
now, is we
Right.
have been, when I first walked in the SAU, my big thing was really, I want practice, and procedures in place for everything we do, so that it's not left to word of mouth. That it's not left to, this is how we do it. It's not left to, hey, I'm gonna walk in here and this is how we're gonna do it now. The answer is, this is how we do it. Let me get you our practice and our procedure for this. So that's what we've been working on, and talk about almost at every department head meeting and every SAU staff meeting.
So can you add deadlines to that?
Well, that's part of it. That's
Okay.
part of that practice and procedure is that you have, when do you get, things done and when do you get them in by, and what report is due when with the state, what is,
Exactly.
and making sure that we have those things in place. They're not all in place. Don't get me wrong. This is a work in progress.
What we missed.
So
been
I'm going to
a pleasure.
piggyback on what Jerry said. So one of the things you talked about evaluations, when Jerry walked in the door, he sat down with all of us to ask what the timelines are and so forth. And one of the questions we said about non-affiliated staff, based on when we have to issue contracts. We know what the deadline is for teachers. We know what the deadlines are for paraprofessionals. There's no deadline for paraprofessionals. And we talked about, well, evaluations need to be done. And then, then the increases occur. So those are all ongoing things that are in the process of being reviewed. And what makes sense. Past practice may not be best practice.
Right.
So Jerry has taken the initiative to go ahead and start that process. This is an ongoing process, and you're right, and deadlines change. I try to keep, I'm going to take me as an example. I try in my board report, I kind of try to give you a timeline when things are happening, give the board, when we get having audits, when they're being resolved. The food service agreement had to be approved by the board before we sent it, if you were going to continue with cafe services. There's a timeline to do that. If you're going to go out to bid again, you have to do it in order to meet those criterias. So we met those criteria at this point, and now it's in the DOE hands, because they have to sign off on the outsourcing cafe services, and then we're done at that point. And then after that, there's an application that Jen is talking about for food service, but that doesn't come out until August. So when that comes out in my board report, I will say that report has been completed.
But we shouldn't be waiting just for your board report. We should be able to look at a calendar or a list.
Timeline.
Yep, of all the deadlines that you
upcoming,
have in a
yep.
year. If you've been here a year, you should be able to write that in the calendar, and it should be there for next year.
But I didn't know we had to bring that to the board. I mean, I wasn't aware that that was a
Prior to
thing.
you, so many things were missed that it's unnerving. It was.
Okay.
And so
And that's
necessarily-
not typically something you would bring to the board, in my experience.
It'd just be
but
nice
to
to
see
have,
what
like,
those deadlines
prior
would
to
be.
Well, if we knew they were in place and we saw them and felt that we were confident in them, then we probably wouldn't need to see them yet a year.
Or if we see something coming up that we want to discuss, that's
No,
coming
no,
up.
again, it's not, again, I have no issue sharing that with you. I'm just saying, I don't think that's a typical practice, so.
Yeah, but we've had some
but you've had-
atypical.
I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm just saying, when Marie says, I didn't know we had to bring it to the board, you didn't have to. And I don't mind sharing that with you at all, in any way, all of our practice and procedures. But, again, just know that we can do that.
Yeah, it shouldn't be hard.
No, it's
almost
not.
Any
And
place you ever work that has a SOP, and
No,
it
I
starts
guess
at the
Or even just for
employee.
somebody who follows up after you or something. But hopefully that'll.
It's the hit by a bus theory,
Okay.
right? That's the way you should work.
Be a truck.
So what we'll do is there anything else under other?
We did a lot, actually. This
Yeah.
was very exciting. It's nice to work on it. And
Well, I apologize a little bit because I feel like I was really trying to get more related to SMART goals, and I feel like just the way we were talking didn't lend itself there. I will bring it back to you
as SMART
as a
goals.
SMART goal.
Yep.
That won't be done this week because there's a lot to do here. It'll take some time to get this together. Let's set a goal of by the time the last board meeting of the school year, we'll set a goal for
You
that.
can't read that anyway, can you?
I can. It's designed so you can't look over my
I know.
shoulder.
That's
I can't read
very. I mean, that's
Jerryism.
exciting. I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to the projects that we're working on
Yeah.
this summer.
Are we
So.
supposed
So-
to fill these out?
No, you
Like, in
can.
return
They
for
were just
something?
they were given to you as an FYI, and
Okay.
again, they're not a. They were given
Anybody
to
have
you
anything else?
independently?
Is there anything going on that we need to know about? Are we not going to get to the emails anymore?
It's only a workshop. It's
Okay.
not a meeting,
Right.
so we can't really get into that. If you want to ask me after the meeting, if there's anything I can certainly
didn't get
share that
into
with you.
that.
But
That would be good.
I don't want to be. I don't want
Too.
to muddy the waters here. Workshop
it.
and meeting.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
I second it.
All in favor?